Hey, all, Scott Horton here to let you know Pizza Noir, Book 1 by Denver Day is now available at your local bookstore and Amazon.com. Grab a cold cup of coffee and follow Tacoma, Washington Detective Rick Thompson as he investigates the mystery behind the mass murder of dozens of hot young strippers and roller derby girls all across the West, while he learns new things about the world and himself. Pizza Noir, Book 1 by Denver Day. Normal, as we knew it, is a thing of the past. Find it at scotthorton.org/books or scotthorton.org/Amazon. All right, you guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Scott Horton. This is my show, Scott Horton Show. On the line, I got Sheldon Richman. He's the vice president of the Future Freedom Foundation and the editor of their journal, The Future Freedom. Subscribe at fff.org/subscribe. It's cheap, $15 a year for the online, $25 a year for the print edition, and it's really great. There's some really great stuff in that thing, man. It's really worth reading. Hey, welcome back to the show. How are you doing, Sheldon?
I'm doing fine. Always glad to be with you, Scott.
Whoa.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me back.
Happy to have you. All right, so this jerk Henry Kissinger, why he wrote a thing he did again. This time it's called World Order, and Hillary Clinton wrote a review of it for the Washington Post. But before we get into your review of her review of Kissinger's book here, Sheldon, let me ask you what your problem is, because, you know, this Hillary Clinton, she has checked all the boxes and she has done all the right things. She was married to a president. She was a senator for a while, Armed Services Committee, started a couple of wars when she was Secretary of State. And then, so now she has the right to be president. And we all have the duty to support her destiny. And so, how dare you get in her way, jerk?
Well,
I mean that seriously. She deserves this. Just ask her. She'll tell you.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of what I think was the unofficial motto of the Bob Dole campaign. It's my turn.
Right.
Which is always very persuasive. You know, just President Dole, you know. Name a war that President Dole got us into, okay? Anyway, yeah, you're right. I mean, Hillary has it all. She's the candidate of Wall Street, and she's the candidate of War Street, and she's managed to combine neoconservatism and neoliberalism, and by neoliberalism, I mean, you know, the IMF, the Washington Consensus approach to, you know, rebuilding the world. So she's put it all together. And I think that just means she's a consistent person. We can't accuse her of really contradictions. I think her program is quite consistent. It's pro-empire. It's pro-corporatism. She's got it all.
Well, she's got the NPR crowd locked up, too. The whole, you know, outlaw your size soda and outlaw cigarettes faction. The busybody won't leave anybody else alone faction. They all just love her. And plus, whatever, just sort of institutional feminism and the kind of washout from that where, you know, women by the millions across America just have the impression that they're just supposed to support this lady because she's a lady.
Yeah, the only thing she doesn't have going for her is she's a terribly rotten candidate. It's amazing that someone with so few political skills could be married to someone whose political skills are so great. I mean, you know, people talk about Clinton being Bill Clinton being the best politician of I don't know. Some people say that, you know, in the post-Reagan era, he certainly had the political skills. He could look you in the eye, they say, and make you believe to him you're the most important person in the world. She doesn't have any of those skills. She seems to have a tin ear. You know, she tried to. It's, you know, she was so overtly playing up to the Elizabeth Warren crowd when she said, you know, there's a mistaken notion out there that corporations create jobs. She never even explained what she meant by that. And then she had to back away and say, well, that was just a shorthand. And she ended up basically dumping the View. So it was just such a clumsy attempt to say to her left flank, hey, I'm with you. You know, no, don't make any rumblings about finding a candidate like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. I'm your person. I'm your woman, your candidate. But I think you're right. A lot of people are going to find it irresistible to favor her simply because, you know, she's got the best shot at being the first woman president. That's a pretty sorry way to pick a president.
Yeah,
because I don't want I don't want anybody to be president. Nobody's qualified because, government has assigned itself an impossible job, planning society. Nobody can do that, so therefore nobody's qualified.
Right. There was an article the other day, just yesterday. I meant to get to this on the show and didn't, in McClatchy, about how the waning days of Obama's presidency and his legacy is such a damn disappointment. And I was saying, this could be the exact same thing about George W. Bush by the end of his terms, same thing about Bill Clinton by the end of his. George Bush Sr., people were over him in 4. I remember at the end of the Reagan years, it was like, corruption and Iran-Contra and a $4 trillion debt. Can you believe that? He wasted all on MX missiles and all this crap. Like, people were completely fed up with Reagan. He had a low approval rating by the time he left power, despite all the mythology of him now. And just like you're saying, it's the presidency that's the problem, even if you had somebody decent in there.
Right, and of course, I agree with Lord Acton that power corrupts, tends to corrupt. In fact, I would take Lord Acton an extra step, which is something that Bob Higgs likes to say. And power doesn't just corrupt; it attracts the corrupt. It attracts the already corrupt.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's the least attractive thing about Hillary Clinton is just the way that she wears her ambition on her sleeve so badly. Rand Paul, the very same thing. Where the ultimate motivation of their best interest is not disguised. The rest of them pretend all day that they love you and it's for you. But with these people, it's just, gimme, gimme, gimme. I want the power. In fact, I remember they asked Hillary Clinton, why do you want to be president? And she went, 'cause she couldn't say absolute power. So she said, she finally sputtered something about, I just want to give opportunities to people or some crap, but it took her 15 seconds to even come up with that, because the answer was, because I want to control you. She didn't know how to say that nicely, really.
Well, that problem sunk Ted Kennedy some years ago in a famous interview with Roger Mudd when he was asked, why did he want to be president? And he stammered for about, I don't know, it seemed like an eternity. It was probably just, 45 seconds, but he could not even get out a coherent sentence about why he wanted to be. Yeah. And at least the folklore is that sunk his chances. I don't think she could give anything that would sound like any kind of inspirational statement about what she wanted to be president. She's a power monger. She wants power. I mean, she may rationalize it to herself about how, but I was doing good for people. But we know what all that means, and it comes out in her review of Kissinger's book. Mm-hmm. And I think it's pretty significant. If any progressives, good faith progressives and anti-war types are it's hard to imagine this, who are interested in her candidacy at all, they really need to look at what she has said and written over the years. And most recently, this review of Kissinger's book last weekend, because it's very revealing. I mean, she's slobbering all over him. I know she says, we have some differences. We have some policy differences. We have some differences in analyses. But they can't be very important because she praises him. She says that when she was Secretary of State, that she frequently asked for his counsel, and then whenever he traveled abroad, he would send her a report about the people he met, the world leaders he talked to, and what the situation is. And she talks about how important that is. And she says she and Obama have no differences, substantial differences about the big picture with Kissinger. They both believe in, as she puts it, building a global architecture for democracy and liberalism. And of course, when I hear posers such as these courtiers and politicians talking about building global architectures, I want to run away because we all know what that means. The rest of us are just mere chess pieces on the board, as Adam Smith put it. They want to move us around because they know what square we ought to be on. I don't like people like that who talk about building global architectures. But if Kissinger is her man in some important way, all we need to do is look at Kissinger's record. I mean, my article links to, by the way, it's at fff.org. It links to the great documentary based on Christopher Hitchens' book, The Trials of Henry Kissinger. It's devastating. This guy has so much blood on his hands. He's got to wear flesh-colored gloves just to hide it.
Yeah.
Was,
well, you know what? I'm kind of glad the commercial's playing now. That means we get to start fresh on the other side of this with the real history of Henry Kissinger's career, especially for the young who really don't know. They need to know for a lot of reasons, including the implication for the Hillary campaign. Mm-hmm. Just a sec, y'all. You hate government? One of them libertarian types? Or maybe you just can't stand the president, gun grabbers, or warmongers. Me too. That's why I invented LibertyStickers.com. Well, Rick owns it now, and I didn't make up all of them, but still, if you're driving around and want to tell everyone else how wrong their politics are, there's only one place to go. LibertyStickers.com has got your bumper covered. Left, right, libertarian, empire, police, state, founders quotes, central banking. Yes, bumper stickers about central banking. Lots of them. And, well, everything that matters. LibertyStickers.com. Everyone else's stickers suck. All right, you guys, welcome back to the show. Talking with Sheldon Richman about Hillary Clinton and her hero and good friend and mentor, Henry Kissinger. Yeah, she's the progressive candidate for president next time around, I guess. It looks like it's going to be. I did read a thing about how there are no credible Barack Obamas to her left to challenge her in a primary. Possibly Warren or Bernie Sanders, as you said there, Sheldon, but not much of that. And they don't have the kind of support in the Democratic Party that Obama had going into 07 at all. So she's virtually unopposed, at least for now. Things can change, but looks like she's going to be the Democratic nominee here. And so where we left off, you were talking about just who this Henry Kissinger is, and as I'm made aware in my email from time to time, there's a substantial part of this audience that's quite young. They're really millennial types who don't remember the 20th century much at all, Sheldon. They don't really know much about this stuff, and probably especially the more controversial type history. But you mentioned Christopher Hitchens' movie and book, The Trials of Henry Kissinger there, and I think it was a book too. I've seen the movie. Yep. But anyway, it's interesting. It is important, I think, that Christopher Hitchens sided with the neoconservatives. He was no anti-interventionist. He sided with the neocons. He wanted more war all the time, just for moral reasons, instead of the cold, calculated, reptilian reasons of that Rockefeller realist Henry Kissinger, who was, so uncaring about the way he went around getting millions of people killed, as Hitchens would help to do when it came to the invasion of Iraq, for example. But anyway, it seems like the most important story there is the 68 peace talks on the story of Anna Chenault, which is featured in that documentary. Can you tell them about that?
Well, those actually I don't have the details on, but he presided over the war in Vietnam after Nixon became president in 1969, and he was first he was Nixon's national security advisor, who completely overshadowed and emasculated the actual Secretary of State of Record, William Rogers. The power was all with Kissinger, and then Kissinger became Secretary of State, and helped set up those negotiations with the North Vietnamese, Le Duc Tho. In fact, he won a Nobel Peace Prize. But how many people died on his and Nixon's watch? More than I think died under Johnson during their secret plan to end the war and so-called Vietnamization. They were killing lots of people. They went into Cambodia, of course, and lots of people died. But that's not the only place Kissinger was responsible for deaths or where they gave the green light to some U.S.-backed dictator. It happened in Indonesia, where the East Timorese, separatist movement was people were slaughtered by the Indonesian government that was backed by the U.S. And then there's a case I'd written about. There's a book on this. I can't remember the title for it right now, but about when Pakistan was trying to keep the Bengalis in East Pakistan from being separating. Eventually, it became Bangladesh, but the ruler of Pakistan, with a green light from the U.S. and of course with equipment and money, slaughtered hundreds of thousands of people. Why? Because the leader of Pakistan was dealing with Nixon, was dealing with Mao Zedong on behalf of Nixon and Kissinger. They desperately wanted to do this opening to China, and they needed Pakistan, who was close to China at the time, to help them, and so therefore they weren't going to tell the dictator of Pakistan, hey, cut it out, don't slaughter those innocent Bengalis. And so they actually winked their eye and kept sending them money and guns, and it's a terrible story. There's a book, wish I had the title at hand. I linked to it in my article about this in the article about Hillary, and that will lead you to the book written by a former diplomat who was actually posted in Pakistan and who was totally appalled by what was.
Go ahead, I'll pull it up here.
Under Nixon and Kissinger. So Kissinger had, and let's not forget Chile, right? Let's not forget the CIA inspired coup that overthrew Allende and put Pinochet in power, and he slaughtered thousands of people, tortured, people just disappeared.
Yeah. That's the Blood Telegram, by the way, is the footnote you were searching there. Okay,
the Blood Telegram, right. Excellent book. And Jacob Hornberger, of course, the president of Future Freedom Foundation, has been writing often about the coup in Chile, the CIA, and that,
so you
of
can
course,
see how even a devil
Kissinger.
like Hitchens has plenty to hate here,
Well, yeah, we could talk about Hitchens another time. I mean, I knew Christopher at one point. He really changed after 9/11, and I think that was a combination of his feeling he was too close to a place that could get bombed. He lived in D.C., and also his view toward all religion, including Islam, I think really distorted his foreign policy sense. I mean, before 9/11, Hitchens was quite solid on just about everything. I'm not sure if there was any gap anywhere. But 9/11 really, had a huge impact on him, just to put that on the record.
Sure. Well, and his movie on Kissinger is absolutely great. I went and saw it in the theater when it first came out down at the Dolby Mall. And I definitely encourage people to look at it because his history of Kissinger's crimes, is
right.
pretty comprehensive. And it's amazing really to think that, Henry Kissinger is, some kind of leading light. I remember just, 4 or 5 days before September 11th. 2 days before, or maybe it was a week and 2 days. I forget. Could have been 9 days. It was either 2 or 9 days before September 11th. 60 Minutes did a special about how Henry Kissinger was a war criminal and how he was responsible for getting all those people killed down in Chile because he was a terrorist. And then a few days later, terrorists attacked America, and Henry Kissinger was brought on to be the expert to tell us all about terrorism since he knows the subject so well.
Right. No, he was in office a cold-blooded so-called realist. There's that school of foreign policy thinking which says, you got to be a hard-headed realist and just do what's in the interest of the United States, as the particular person, such as Kissinger, sees it. And so morality has no place. People are expendable. That's why I have to laugh, as I put it at the end of my article here. Hillary praises Kissinger for believing that, when we build this architecture for liberalism and democracy, it's got to not only be just in itself, but the people, the citizens, need to understand it, need to recognize it as just. Kissinger never cared what regular people thought about anything.
Right.
To him, all that matters is the state. And then the next question is, are you with us or are you against us? Meaning, are you with the empire, the indispensable empire, or are you against it? He doesn't care what the people think. And here's Hillary, like I said, drooling all over the guy. Trying to score points. Who's she trying to score points with, by the way? Why does she think this is good for her political career, to be in the Washington Post praising Kissinger up and down? I guess she wants the foreign policy establishment, and he's still a darling of that establishment.
Sure, but they all already know who she is. I mean, you're right. She's already, it's not like she's an unknown quantity to anybody at the Council on Foreign Relations or anything. So, yeah. You're right. She's just trying to prove the point of what a fascist she is, so that we can all know better than to allow her any more power in another couple of years from now. Sounds right to me. What do you think? Good idea?
Yeah. No, I think
Let's
that's right.
listen to her.
They know. Of course, they know her. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Sheldon. Great to talk to you again.
Okay. Anytime, Scott. Good talking.
Appreciate it. Oh, John Kerry's Mideast peace talks have gone nowhere. Hey, y'all, Scott Horton here for the Council for the National Interest at councilforthenationalinterest.org. U.S. military and financial support for Israel's permanent occupations of the West Bank and Gaza Strip is immoral, and it threatens national security by helping generate terrorist attacks against our country. And face it, it's bad for Israel, too. Without our unlimited support, they would have much more incentive to reach a lasting peace with their neighbors. It's past time for us to make our government stop making matters worse. Help support CNI at councilforthenationalinterest.org. Hey, y'all, Scott Horton here for WallStreetWindow.com. Mike Swanson knows his stuff. He made a killing running his own hedge fund and always gets out of the stock market before the government-generated bubbles pop, which is, by the way, what he's doing right now, selling all his stocks and betting on gold and commodities. Sign up at WallStreetWindow.com and get real-time updates from Mike on all his market moves. It's hard to know how to protect your savings and earn a good return in an economy like this. Mike Swanson can help. Follow along on paper and see for yourself. WallStreetWindow.com. Hey, all, Scott here for Whole Food Multi-Complete at WholeFoodComplete.com. Whole Food Multi-Complete is an entire supplement program in one bottle, containing 100% RDA of vitamins and minerals, plus live probiotics, digestive enzymes, antioxidant herbs, energy nutrients, and more. It's made in America using real foods and live probiotics. No chemical synthetics. It's soy-free, gluten-free, and independently tested and verified. They're so sure you'll love it, they're taking 20% off your first order with coupon code Scott Horton. Satisfaction is guaranteed at WholeFoodComplete.com.